I'm doing the presentation about the Civil War, and because our present day Memorial Day that we observe every year actually is founded from the Civil War, it's going to be mostly about how Memorial Day came to be founded. I'm going to pass out, I'm not going to go over all of these details about the Civil War, but I got some really good graphics from the National Park Service website, so I'm just going to pass those around that you guys can read as, or look at as I'm going through this. To start off with, American Civil War, total troop strength during the Civil War. At the beginning of the war, the two armies were nearly equal, with less than 200,000 soldiers on either side, but at the peak of troop strength in 1863, Union soldiers outnumbered Confederate soldiers by a ratio of 2-to-1. The size of Union forces in January of 1863 totaled over 600,000, but by 2 years later, 1865, that number had not changed dramatically for the Union Army, but had dropped to only 200,000 for the Confederate Army, which is a ratio of 3-to-1. The casualties, I'm just going to go through those real quick to get a broad picture of the Civil War. For the Union, we have 642,427, which have been divided into 110,100 killed in action. 224,580 succumbed from various diseases of the time. 275,174 wounded in action. And we have 30,192 POWs. For the Confederates, we have 483,026 total Confederate casualties, which have been divided into 94,000 KIAs, 164,000 dying from diseases, 194,026 wounded in action, and 31,000 POWs. A quick blurb about POWs, because we went to Andersonville recently this year. Of the 200 and 111, 411 Union soldiers captured, 16,668 were paroled on the field, with 30,218 died in prison, which is a mortality rate for the Union Army of 15.5% for Union soldiers. Confederate soldiers captured, there was 462,634, but 247,696 were paroled on the field, with 25,976 dying in prison, which is only a mortality rate of 12% for the Confederates. So I'm going to get into a little bit about how Memorial Day that we observe now came to be passed down to now. The sacrifices of the more than 650,000 soldiers and sailors who died during the course of the 4-year ordeal were sealed into the national consciousness. The holiday, now known as Memorial Day, sprang from the earnest actions of communities on both sides to honor their gallant and glorious dead. Honoring the war dead is as ancient as time itself, but the struggle where an estimated 2% of the total population perished, the custom became an outlet to memorialize loved ones lost and an expression of healing and moving on. As it was shortly after the Civil War that Memorial Day, or Decoration Day, became established, I'm going to take a few extra moments to relay the most common and accepted version of how Memorial Day came to be a federal holiday. Keep in mind, there's several different stories that have been passed along, but this is the most accepted by scholars and people who do peer reviews and stuff. The date is 1865, shortly after the Civil War has ended. The place is Waterloo, New York, at a social gathering celebrating the return of Waterloo's Union veterans. A prominent and patriotic citizen named Henry Carter Wells wondered aloud why so little was being done to honor those who would not be returning. Wouldn't it be fitting, he said, for their graves to be decorated with flowers, which is a display of public appreciation rooted in antiquity? Well, nothing came of Wells's proposal until the next year, when he repeated it to General John B. Murray, Seneca County's newly elected clerk of courts. During the war, General Murray had been one of the commanders of the 148th New York Infantry Regiment. More significantly, he would shortly be named leader of the local chapter of the soon-to-be-founded Grand Army of the Republic, the official Union Soldiers Veterans Association. Murray, a born leader and gifted orator, recognized the righteousness of Wells' idea, and the pair collaborated to form an organizing committee. The solemn and dignified commemoration they planned and straightforwardly called Decoration Day took place on May 5, 1866, a date chosen, it's believed, because it fell on a Saturday when businesses could close without adverse effect and there would be an abundance of fresh local flowers. A parade of Union veterans dressed in uniform and accompanied by martial music marched through the center of town, past flags lowered at half-staff and balconies draped with evergreen boughs and black cloth of mourning. The procession then visited each of Waterloo's 3 cemeteries, at which Murray said a few words of tribute before the graves of the fallen soldiers were solemnly decorated. A second commemoration was held the next year on the same date. Favorable reports of Waterloo's dignified and now annual tribute began to circulate throughout the North and the rapidly expanding Grand Army of the Republic, with popular support for the new Decoration Day ginned up by the publication of New York lawyer Francis Miles Finch's moving nonpartisan elegy, The Blue and the Gray, in the September 1867 issue of the Atlantic Monthly. Clearly, small-town Waterloo had struck a nerve with the still grieving country. Grand Army of the Republic took up the cause, and 5,000 people assembled on May 30th, 1868 at Arlington National Cemetery to hear former Union General, current U.S. Congressman, and future U.S. President James A. Garfield speak for about 15 minutes before dispersing to decorate the graves of some 20,000 Union and Confederate soldiers. Despite Northern attempts to include the Southern dead, the states of the former Confederacy refused to acknowledge Decoration Day, by then known colloquially as Memorial Day, until 1918, when it was expanded to include the dead from all wars. For them, the proper day of remembrance was and still is Confederate Memorial Day, also known as Confederate Decoration Day or Confederate Heroes Day, which falls on various dates in late April, early May, or early June, in individual states across the South, except for in Texas, where the date always recognizes Robert E. Lee's and Jefferson Davis's January birthdays. Even after its universal embrace, it wasn't until 1971 that Memorial Day became an official national holiday. And that's how we have our holiday that we have today. And